Welcome to the weekly current affair class. Today we will be dealing with the topics from society, security and as well as ethics. We will be covering the articles that have come across in the Hindu as well as the Indian Express. The first topic that we will be starting is respect to society. It is a scheme called as PM Shri, basically launched by government day before yesterday. Shri stands for Schools for Rising India. The scheme becomes important in the context of prelims exams. UPSC has been asking very questions for last couple of years with respect to the particular schemes launched by various government departments. So this scheme also becomes important, particularly important in the context of National Education Policy 2020. We all know that it was a big major transformation to upheaval the school education system. This scheme has been launched in that context. We will be seeing what this scheme particularly talks about. See, the scheme was announced on the occasion of National Teachers Day, that is basically 5th of September. Okay, what does this scheme talks about? First of all, it is a centrally sponsored scheme. This is relevant for your prelims exam. UPSC may ask whether it is a centrally sponsored or center sector scheme. It is a centrally sponsored scheme for upgradation and development of selected existing schools. Thus, some particular schools will be selected. Not all of the schools. You will have to make a differentiation with respect to other schemes. Here particularly, just give me a second. Selected schools will be asked or will be eligible to come under this scheme. Not all of the government schools will be coming under this scheme. Government will be selecting some particular schools. Further, they may be managed by the central government, they may be managed by the state, or they may be managed by the UT government or by the local bodies. Not only the schools coming under the UT or state, all of the schools, whether they are under the managed by the central government, by the state, by the UT or even by the local bodies. Some schools from this scenario will be selected by the government from under this particular scheme. So what it aims at, what the schools that will be selected, what will be their purpose? It will aim at creating holistic and well-rounded individuals equipped with 21st century skills. So if you have covered or if you have read holistically and comprehensively the National Education Policy 2020, you must be well versed with its components. The points that you will be seeing here are very much in sync with the components of the National Education Policy. The major objective of the National Education Policy to upgrade the education system, to equip the individuals with the 21st century skills, to improve the pedagogy structure, all of these things will be covered under this particular scheme. What it extra talks about is, schools will be equipped with modern infrastructure including the labs, smart room, classrooms basically, and libraries. This will be the infrastructure creation. Another thing it means to show is equitable, inclusive and diverse leadership in the respective regions by providing high quality education. So what is the basic purpose of the scheme is? Basic purpose of the scheme is to improve the education system by including the basically 21st century skills in the upcoming generation, so that they can reach the respected leadership positions within their respective fields as well as the regions. And the tool for that achievement is basically the upgradation of the school infrastructure by making smart room classes, by making new labs, new equipment. That is the purpose of the scheme. So this is our first topic. Couple of things to remember here for your prelims exams. First of all, launched on the eve of basically National Teachers Day. Second thing, it is a centrally sponsored scheme. Third thing, not all but selected schools will be coming under this scheme. Fourth thing, all of the schools, whether they are managed by the center, state, UT or local bodies, they all will be coming under this scheme. So this was our first topic. Moving forward, our second topic. Again, basically in our last class also we discussed the topic with respect to cyber security. Okay, the malware trojans. If you haven't seen it, you can link on to our previous video and catch up with it. So this again talks about cyber security, what are the challenges and issues of cyber security, and majorly we will be dealing with the legal and institutional structures with respect to the cyber security, and what are the measures that needs to be taken to improve the cyber security infrastructure as well as the whole of the scenario or whole of the strategic planning. So first of all, you can also use this introduction with respect to your mains answers, or if you come across an essay or so. See, first of all, new forms of cyber security threats are emerging. We see in the cyberspace, where these threats are emerging in the cyberspace. Why? Because of the technological revolution that is taking place. First of all, we need to understand that what are the basically new forms of threats that are faced by India, that threats are faced in the cyberspace, why they are becoming so important, and basically why so frequent. That is because of the technological revolution that is taking place all over the world, and particularly with respect to India. And these threats are very different from traditional threats. Traditional threat is basically old warfare techniques. Why? Because they can be conducted by sitting at far places without physical presence. You know what, earlier if terrorist attacks used to happen, individuals or terrorists, they need to be physically present in the particular geographical space where they want to conduct an attack. But now these attacks can be conducted by sitting at faraway places. So it increases the burden as well as the difficulty of the government. Why? Because criminals will be hard to identify as well as to catch them. First of all, it will take a lot of task and expertise to see basically who has conducted an attack, whether that attack is conducted by state or by non-state actors. This classification is very difficult, or whether if, for example, we are able to establish that particular attack was conducted by non-state actors, but whether that particular non-state actors were funded by state or not, okay, this comes a very difficult task to prove. Further, to catch them, we have established that so particular so and so individuals have conducted a terrorist attack on our infrastructure, but how do we catch them when they are sitting at faraway places? That is why the issue of cyber security becomes so much important. Moving forward, what are the new forms that we are seeing in the cyberspace that are happening, new forms of attack? They are in the form of cyber espionage, cyber warfare, cyber attack. You must have studied these classifications within your security classes. So these are the new forms. You can also basically, if you haven't studied them, they can be important for your prelims exams as well. So please go and search these terms, that what are these particular terms, cyber espionage, what is cyber attack, or what is cyber warfare, where different type of malware, such as we had discussed in our last video also, what are the malwares, what is Trojan, such as virus is there, Trojan is there, or worms are there basically, which are used to harm the critical infrastructure of the country. What is a critical infrastructure? Such as like basically nuclear plants, on which basically whole of the energy sector is dependent of the country. Then basically it can be some major government department which houses the information with respect to the citizens, or it may be the electricity plant. Okay, you must have seen the news basically last year when Mumbai electricity power plant was attacked by cyber security attack was there on the Mumbai electricity power plant, and it was alleged that basically it was conducted by the Chinese individuals. So this is a critical infrastructure. Now let's coming to the stats. What is the status of India with respect to the cyber security? See, according to the Data Council of India, India was the second most cyber attacked country between 2016 and between 2018. So that is why cyber security becomes so much important for us. If the frequency of attacks that are happening in the world, India is at the second place between these 3 to 4 years. So that is why the upgrading of the cyber security infrastructure, the proper institutional mechanisms, the proper legal mechanisms needs to be there in the place, so that these type of attacks can be adequately dealt with. Further, another important point for your there is a particular index that is released with respect to cyber security preparedness, that is called as the cyber security global cyber security index, and it is released by ITU, that is International Telecommunication Union, and it ranked India at the 10th place. So you need to know about this, what is global cyber security index, and it is released by ITU. It will be helpful for your prelims exams. Indexes are all the time asked by the UPSC. So what is the introductory part here? New forms of threats are emerging. They are in the form of cyber espionage, attack, warfare. Why they are happening? Because of the technological revolution, and they are different from traditional warfare. Why? Because of the physical presence is not there of the criminals, which makes it hard to identify who has done the attack, and basically, and more importantly, to catch them. Coming to the statistics, basically Data Council of India stated that India is the second most cyber attacked country, and Global Cyber Security Index states that it is released by ITU, which ranks India at the 10th place. Moving forward, see, now we will be dealing with the cyber security issues. Why we are not able to adequately deal with these issues? First of all is the basically international convention part. See, this can again be asked with respect to your prelims exams. Budapest Convention is there. It is the only convention as well as the first convention that seeks to address internet and computer crime by harnessing national laws, basically improving investigative techniques. It is an international convention. Again, you should know that basically if when it is asked in the prelims exams, what is the Budapest Convention or what is it related to? It is the first convention which deals with the internet issues, and it aims to harmonize the national laws with the international mechanisms and improve investigative mechanisms. See, India, again important for your prelims exams, India has not joined this particular convention because it stated that the data theft or any attacks that are happening, it will give cross jurisdiction, which hampers our national sovereignty of the country. It is the prerogative of the country or of the government basically to take such actions or to against the individuals who have done the cyber attacks, but giving cross jurisdiction to others to come and investigate that particular individuals, it violates the national sovereignty. That is why India has not joined this particular convention. So this is our first point. Second is the PPP framework. PPP obviously stands for Public Private Partnership Framework. It states that basically most of the cyber security operations are carried out by agencies such as CERT-In. You must have again studied CERT-In in your classes. It is the first agency which responds to the if cyber attack is there or if you are a victim of cyber crime. In the giving fast changing nature, we all know that new technological developments are emerging, new technologies are taking place every day, but government is not able to keep up with those technological advancements every day. Government infrastructure as well as laws are not continuously upgraded to deal with the emerging technological advancements. That is why there is a lag between the advancements that are happening in the private sector and the upkeep of the government, that is the public sector. So what we propose is the PPP framework, Public Private Partnership Framework, that is not adequately in place in India, where government can keep up with the advancements in the private sector and can harness the talent and the expertise that is prevalent in the private sector to keep up its own departmental security. So what it states that is that intensity of cyber attacks is there, then there is a need to leverage, that I have told you, private sector expertise in combating cyber crimes through the PPP framework, but this has not been done so far. So this is our second point. Third one is with respect to your IT and National Cyber Security Policy 2013. See, the National Cyber Security 2000 policy that was there, it was a very revolutionary and breakthrough mechanism that was adopted by the government to deal with the issues of cyber warfare or cyber espionage that is there. But again 10 years have passed by and we have not been continuously updating it. It has various loopholes which gives basically the advantage to the criminals to escape the wrath of the law. So what is happening here is some of the experts have pointed out the present legal and facilitative framework for the cyber crime warfare such as IT Act, it is not enough to handle technologically advanced cyber crimes. New technologies that are emerging, new forms of cyber warfare, new forms of cyber threats that are emerging, basically they do not find a place in this cyber security policy. Because why? Again, it is not adequately updated. It does not again promote new institutional mechanisms which can take care of the new emerging threats. That is why the policy basically needs to be strengthened. And IT Act, basically it was established in 2000, and in these 20 years it has been rarely amended or updated to keep up with the technological advancements or the new forms of warfare. So what are our 3 points here? Very simple. First of all, India has not joined the international convention, because of which it is not able to effectively collaborate with the international agencies with respect to the cyber security threats. Second is the PPP framework is not there. Government is lagging with respect to the advancements in the technological sector, and it can improve so by going through the PPP framework, public private partnership, by harnessing the private talent and expertise, but it has not been able to do so. Third one is with respect to the legal mechanisms that we have in place. First, particularly the National Cyber Security Policy 2013, and second one, the IT Act. They have not been continuously updated or making the way for the technological advancements or the new forms of cyber warfare that can be adequately dealt with. So this is our 3 points. And next one is there is a shortage of skilled professionals. In our last video also, basically we discussed this issue at detail, that our Indian economy or our Indian market does not have adequate presence of professionals which have the expertise basically to deal with the rising cyber threats that are coming here, or the new forms of software or technologies are not in particularly in place. Why? Because the professionals to deal with such type of crimes are very less in our market. So that is the another issue. Moving forward, another issue is see with respect to jurisdiction. I think we again discussed in our introductory part also what is the issue with respect to jurisdiction. See, many of the crimes, or majority 90% of the crimes, are transnational in nature. They are conducted at far away geographical places. They will be conducted at another geographical space. For example, the Trump election that was there of 2016, it was basically attacked through the Russia. So at a very far away geographical place. So first of all, it is transnational in nature. When the criminal is sitting at a far away place and the country does not has a territorial jurisdiction to investigate crimes at another geographical place or in another country, it becomes very difficult to catch that particular criminal and bring him basically in front of the law. So that is the another issue. That is why cyber security threats are rising, because individuals know that if we will cover or if we will do the particular crime and setting at a faraway place, basically we will not be, the countries or the victims of that particular attacks will not be able to catch us, because the countries don't have jurisdiction over that particular geographical space. And next issue is security and peace. What is another challenge? See, when you try to harm the critical infrastructure of the country, when you try to attack infrastructure of a country, such as basically you can take the example of the Iran nuclear facility that was attacked through a particular program called Stuxnet that was there. See, when such type of attacks are there, when the critical infrastructure of the country is hampered or hindered with, what happens is that basically national sovereignty and integrity of the country is harmed. You can do basically physical harm to the country by sitting at a faraway place, and when the country does not have its own proper, what we say, absolute power over the area that is of the particular country or that is of hers, basically the national sovereignty and integrity of the country will be harmed. Particularly this happens with respect to the attacks on the critical infrastructure. I have already told you, critical infrastructure such as like nuclear plants, electricity plants that are there, or the areas that house the data of the citizens. When such attacks happen, when the government does not have control over that particular infrastructure or over the important programs or software, basically there is a loss of national sovereignty, because the government is not able to take decisions with utmost independence. So what are the issues again we are dealing with? That were, first of all, international convention is not there, then PPP framework is not there, then laws are not adequately updated, personnel are not there. Next is with respect to jurisdiction, and last one is with respect to the loss of national sovereignty and peace. So these are the issues. Now we will be dealing with respect to what are the legal and institutional mechanisms to deal with the, what we say, cyber security threats. We have discussed about the, in our issues with respect to National Cyber Security Policy 2013 and Section 66F of the ITA. These both are, what we say, the legal mechanisms to deal with the cyber security threats. So what does this particular National Cyber Security Policy talks about? It aims to improve the protection and resilience of the country's critical infrastructure information. The areas that are very critical or that house the basically critical infrastructure, such as again the nuclear power plants, electricity plants, dams are there, or another areas, it aims to protect them and improve through resilience. We means that is, it aims to improve the capacity building of these particular areas so that it can deal with any type of cyber security attacks. Next is with respect to Section 6 of the ITA, that is ITA's Information Technology Act. Okay, it deals with the specific provisions dealing with the issues of cyber terrorism, that if you are a victim of cyber crime, you are a victim of cyber attack, you are a victim of cyber espionage, cyber warfare, this is the act that deal with, or that the particular act that will basically hold the criminals accountable. Okay, it is under this act that basically you will get the justice. So these are the legal mechanisms. Now we will come forward to the basically institutional mechanisms, the bodies, institutional mechanisms, by which we mean that the bodies that have been developed to take care of these cyber threats. So first of all is with respect to your CERT-in. What is the task of CERT-in? I have already told you, it responds to the computer security incidents report on vulnerabilities and promote the effective IT security practices throughout the country. Whenever you are a victim of cyber crime, you approach first of all the CERT-in. It basically responds to the computer related, security related incidents, as well as besides that it also reports the vulnerabilities and how to promote the cyber security. So that is our first agency. Second, you must have studied about is the National Cyber Security Coordination Center. See, what does it talks about? It seeks to basically generate situational awareness of existing and potential cyber threats. What are the cyber threats that our country is facing, and what can be the new forms of cyber threats that can emerge, basically that we have to prepare for in advance. That is the task of National Cyber Security awareness of existing and potential cyber security threats. So these are the basically CERT-in and National Cyber Security Coordination Center. Moving forward, again what is the another legal what is the other institutional structure? You must have again heard about the Cyber Swachhta Kendra. Cyber Swachhta Kendra, basically it deals with, or it was a platform that was introduced, okay, for the internet users to how to basically get rid of the virus and malwares that basically penetrate your digital devices. That digital device may be computer, laptop, your smartphone is there, any digital device, basically how to clean them or how to get rid of the particular virus and malwares that have entered your digital device, and basically they will leak the information or they will steal your critical data that can violate your privacy and autonomy. So what does it deal with? It basically provides the internet users to clean their computers and devices by wiping out viruses and malware. Next, again, one is a critical one, National Critical Information Infrastructure Protection Center. So again, it was established under the IT Act. You all know about IT Act 2000 to secure again India's critical information infrastructure. It is a particular body that deals with how to protect our critical infrastructure, how to promote their resilience. And the last one here is the National Cyber Security Coordinator. See, we have seen that we have established many of the institutional structure or bodies to deal with the cyber security issues. So what does this particularly body do is it basically coordinates different agencies both at the national level and at the state level for the cyber security matters. The bodies that we have seen national, it may be critical information protection center is there, cyber security coordination center is there, Swachhta Kendra is there. It aims to or it seeks to promote coordination among all these institutional structures so that a holistic strategy can be put in place to deal with the cyber security. The question can be asked with respect to this, particularly with respect to this, that what are the particular legal or institutional structures that are in place to protect us from the cyber security threats. So you must know about all 7 to 8 that are there in place, particularly with respect to 2 legal mechanisms, that is National Cyber Security Policy 2013 and basically the IT Act 2000 and the various institutional mechanisms that we have discussed so far. Moving forward, we will be dealing with basically what are the particular measures that needs to be put in place to deal with basically such cyber security challenges, or how to improve our resilience of such cyber security threats. See, first thing that needs to be done is basically the budgetary provisions. We can allocate a minimum of 2.25% or of the annual budget, which can be raised up to 1% basically. See, minimum of 0.5% or up to 1% at least, we can make some particular budgetary provisions yearly that basically we will be contributing these amounts of funds to our security infrastructure to improve our cyber security mechanisms. That can be done. Second thing is research, innovation and skill building and technological development. We need to improve our R&D. Our government spends only 0.7% of the GDP on R&D. We need to improve our spending on R&D so that we can come up with new innovations, new softwares or the new mechanisms basically to deal with the cyber security issues. Further, this budgetary provision will help in skill building. Okay, we have discussed the issue of the skilled professionals are not there. So this amount, some amount can be particularly marked for this, and some can be marked for the technological development also. So our second point is with respect to research, innovation, skill building and technology development. See, next one is a cyber diplomacy, very important point, because we have discussed in issues that cyber security forms or threats basically they take away at far away geographical places. So what we need is a cyber diplomacy in shaping India's global relations. We have a coordination with the international institutional structures like UN is there, or with respect to other countries, so that basically how to improve the cyber warfare techniques, how to improve our security, how to improve our resilience. And India can start with the cyber security preparedness by through key regional blocks like BIMSTEC is there, or basically Shanghai Cooperation Organization is there. Okay, through these mechanisms India can promote or India can improve its cyber security resilience. Next one is basically a cyber security services, like you have IAS services are there, or like Indian engineering services are there. On the lines of this, a particular dedicated service can be established to deal with the issues of cyber security. Another thing is basically holding cyber security drills. We need, like we have warfare games are there, you must have heard about, or basically police techniques, police drills are there to deal with the cyber security threats, traditional form of security threats. Like that, we need to hold the cyber security drills, which include real life scenarios with their ramifications, so that we are better prepared when we face a attack. Next is basically continuously updating national cyber security strategy. The policies or the legal mechanisms that we have in place, they need to be continuously updated so that basically we can deal with all forms of emerging issues or threats that we are facing. And last one is with respect to data protection law. okay, that needs to be put in place so that we can protect the right to privacy, which is your fundamental right under article of 21 of the constitution given by Supreme Court under the KS Puttaswamy judgment. You must have studied about it. So if you should know that data protection bill, that was 2019 bill was there, that has been taken back by the government. If you haven't seen that video, you can link on to that video what are the particular issues with respect to why data protection bill was taken back and what government intends to do further. Okay, so what are the measures that we have that needs to be taken? First of all, we need to make a budgetary provision. Second one, we need to spend on R&D, skill building, technology development. Third one, India needs to go for cyber diplomacy with the institutional mechanisms as well as with the other countries. It can go for the cyber security preparedness through regional blocks like BIMSTEC and SU is there. Then we need to hold the cyber security drills so that we are better prepared for the attacks. Next one is basically the creating of the cyber security services on the lines of other services like IAS is there, Indian engineering services are there and so on. Next one is continuously updating our legal mechanisms, and the last one is basically data protection law so that we can protect the right to privacy of the individual. So this was all that was there with respect to the cyber security. You can see that basically there are some things that are very particular or important for your mains exams in this particular topic, and there were some things that are very important for your prelims exam as well, so that you can segregate both of the things and prepare accordingly. Next topic that we will be dealing with is basically that is the ethical perspective in development. See, we will be dealing with the what are the ethical issues that are here. Why the ethical perspective in development needs to be looked at? See, we have been seeing this the first half of the year 2022. We have seen so much of the basically natural disasters that we need to look at ourselves that what kind of development we are doing and basically for whom that is development and that development for what. Basically both the things need to be looked at, development for whom and development for what are our intentions. Do we need the development that basically destroys our natural environment? In your answers you can always start with basically the more examples that you will be providing, the more marks you will be getting. See the recent floods in Pakistan that are there, that are going on now. Urban floods in Bengaluru are there. Okay, then landslides earlier in Assam were there. Heat waves in North India, prolonged heat waves in North India. These things again raise the debate of development versus environmental ethics. What we need, unsustainable development, or basically we need to protect our environment. See, the particular issue here is that the model that is followed by the countries, it is energy intensive. What do you mean by energy intensive? Energy intensive means which is not only raising the global temperatures, but it is exhausting our natural resources. When our natural resources will be exhausted, our future generations, they will not be left with anything. So that is why we have brought the concept of sustainable development. If these things goes on basically, then the sustainable development or the goal of even the SDGs cannot be achieved. See, particularly these natural disasters we need to look at is they are impacting all the sections of the society, but particularly the poor. Take the example of basically Pakistan floods that are there. See, at least 1500 people have been killed there, and the majority of them belongs to basically the poor section of the society who do not have shelter, who do not have resources to cope up with the after effects of climate change, okay, to cope up with the natural disasters. So the climate change is bearing an unbearable burden on the particularly vulnerable section of the society. Next one, you can also quote another example here if you want to include. It will depend upon the context and demand of the question. You can give the example with respect to urban floods in Bengaluru, that while the poor and the vulnerable are particularly affected by this natural disasters, but the wrath of the nature or the wrath of the natural disaster, when the nature strikes back, it does not look basically who is more powerful or who is more vulnerable. Basically you must have seen in the news with respect to urban floods that the areas in the Bengaluru which are housing posh societies, which are housing the elite businessmen or the most secured communities, in the Bengaluru city, they have been also affected by the urban floods and they have been rescued by the boats. So that point can also be mentioned here. Okay. So for that particular analysis, first of all, we need to look at what is environmental ethics. Okay. For development, for a sustainable development, we need an environmental perspective that can be integrated into the development perspective. So that thing is called as the environmental ethics. What is it? It is the applied philosophy, okay, that studies the moral and ethical relations of human beings with their environments. How are you related to environment? How you are related to the nature? How does you see nature? How are you integrated with the nature? Okay, that your integration, your response, your relation to the environment will tell you basically whether you will go for environmental conservation and preservation or not. Okay, that is called as the environmental ethics. Coming to the issues of basically what are the ethical issues that are prevalent here with respect to the kind of development or the energy intensive model that we are following. See, first of all is with respect to the equity. As I have already told you with the introductory part that the most affected with respect to the energy intensive development is the poor. We need to see whether they are getting the fruits of development or they are at the receiving end. Receiving end means they are the victims of climate change. Every year whenever floods or earthquakes or any type of natural disaster occurs, we see that basically most of the individuals who have to cope up with are the vulnerable section of the society, and basically they become at the receiving end. Every year they have to be displaced, they have to be basically moved to other locations. So whether they are getting empowered in society with respect to what kind of development that we are following, or basically they are vulnerable to that development or to the after effects of development, particularly with respect to the climate change. So whether equity is there or not, equity by means here we means empowerment. Okay. Next is the sustainable development. As I have already told you, whether the future generations will have the natural resources at their disposal or they will be burdened with the effects of climate change, whether they will be able to promote the development according to their own needs or whether they will be basically having to deal with the after effects of climate change. The frequency of the disasters, it is said by experts that it will increase in the coming days or in the coming years. So whether they will have to bear with that or whether they will have the natural resources at their disposal. You can also include here that basically they will be dealing with something that they are not, what we say, that they have not contributed to. Okay, they are not directly responsible for this kind of development or this kind of after effects that they will have to deal with. That is our second issue of the sustainable development. Third one is the human rights. Whether your development violates the basic rights of freedom, your liberty, your work, whether basically this kind of development violates your right to movement, whether it violates your right to shelter, whether it violates your working capacity, whether it violates your health, whether you are getting empowered in society, that means the basically that is what comes in the human rights. Next one, environmental issue. Whether the kind of development that we are promoting, whether it leads to conservation and preservation of our environment, or we are exhausting the environment or exploiting the environment for our short term gains. We need to look at that, what kind of thing or what kind of development we are following. Okay, whether it leads to promotion and conservation or the exploitation of natural resources for profit and short term goals. And the last one here, governance. So this is another important issue with respect to if we even want to promote sustainable development, we need to promote environmental preservation and conservation. Whether that issues lead to the red tapeism, whether that leads to corruption, whether that leads to the delayed clearances. You must have studied with your economic classes that the major issue with respect in India with respect to implementation is the environmental clearances, that they are not basically timely procedures that are put in place, or the timely delays that are there basically, or the corruption asked by the official to clear the projects, whether it will lead to that or not. So that is the thing. So what are these are the ethical issues? Again I will repeat in single lines. First of all, with respect to the equity, whether poor are getting empowered or not, sustainable development is there. Then there is the issue of human rights, governance, and whether it is leading to environmental conservation and preservation or not. Whenever you are writing a conclusion or you are writing way forward, you should must mention in these kind of topics your SDGs, that what needs to be done, we needs to follow this. Second thing, you need to talk about Sendai framework, okay, that is with respect to disaster reduction. Next thing you need to talk about is the inclusive and equitable development. These three things must find a mention within your conclusion or basically within your measures that you will be writing to deal with this particular issues that are there in place. So these are the three topics that we basically discussed with respect to society, with respect to security, and with respect to ethical issues. Okay, there were things that basically are coming in pre and some of the things coming with respect to main perspective. So segregate them and prepare accordingly. All the best. We will be meeting in our next class next week.